Hey, everybody, welcome and welcome back to the Conscious Spirit Podcast. I'm Mari-Lyn, and this is Recovery Talk. And I am just going to say it right off the bat. If you haven't been to our website, there is some new stuff on there. And one of my new offerings is healing and rebuilding in recovery. And this is whether you are recovering from addiction, whether you are participating in a program or not, whether you are just in recovery from the traumas of life. I'm feeling really strongly about that rebuilding piece and rebuilding the way we think and rebuilding the way we act, finding out who we really are at the core. And, the healing piece is so important, but so is that rebuilding piece. And I think sometimes that rebuilding piece gets overlooked. I certainly know I overlooked it for a long time. And that kept me in some really old behaviors. Even though I was doing the healing, I still had these old habits and old ways of doing things because I never realized I could do it different. So that's what this new offering is, and I'm really excited about it, and helping people who are in recovery to go deep into their wounding, deep into that healing, and deep into that rebuilding process, and really stepping into who they are, their highest level. That's what we want in life. We come in to get our butts kicked. We come in to go through all the wounding and experience all the lows and the highs that life has to offer. And when we find ourselves face down in the mud at the bottom of the stairs, and we are ready to say, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, healing is what we have left. Healing is what brings us back to ourselves. And healing looks, it looks different every minute of every day. Healing, there's, so many steps to it. It's kind of like grief. There's so many steps to grief, and it doesn't have to come in any particular order. Healing is the same way. Healing looks different for every person, although we all go through the same basic steps, probably just at different times. And depending on what we're specifically healing, we're going to go through it in a different way. There's acknowledgement, there's acceptance, there's forgiveness. And forgiveness is huge. Forgiveness is not just it's not a two-dimensional thing, one-dimensional. It's not even three-dimensional. Forgiveness is like multi-dimensional, multifaceted. There's, we have to forgive ourselves first. And it's not always first. But in the healing process, self-forgiveness is huge. Forgiving other people. And forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. Forgiving doesn't mean that we are agreeing with whatever happened. It doesn't mean we're excusing any bad behavior. But it's important. Forgiveness is important. Forgiveness allows us to let go of resentments. It allows us to heal and to move beyond whatever it is that we're trying to move beyond. Forgiveness moves into actually situations, forgiving situations, forgiving what isn't, forgiving, I had to forgive myself for not being able to cope without alcohol. Had to. The shame around that was so overwhelming. So I had to forgive myself, and I did, and I have. Now, does that mean there's no more shame associated to alcoholism? No, it's still there. There is still some there. And partly, I think I partly hold on to some of that to help me remember, because the more I can remember, the safer I feel against relapse. But let me go back to healing, to forgiveness. Forgiving ourselves is not even just a simple, I forgive you, There's forgiving our actions, there's forgiving the way we treated ourselves, there's forgiving our physical body, and there's actually allowing our physical body to forgive us. That's getting kind of deep. That's getting down in there. But it comes, and it's fabulous. Healing is one of those things. It's like, well, you've all heard the analogy, I'm sure, of peeling an onion, because, there's so many layers to an onion. There's those little thin membranes. There's thick chunks. There's more thin membranes. So many layers before you finally get down to that core piece that becomes the root of the next onion. Healing works from the outside in. And in early sobriety, doesn't matter how you get sober. If you do it by yourself, if you do it through a program, if you do it through counseling, if you do it through all of the above, the healing is very surface. It starts very surface level. And for me, I started off the first couple of weeks by myself. My husband was there, but it was cold turkey. It was white knuckle, and it was hell. And I'm really grateful. I've mentioned this before. I'm really grateful that sleep was my friend, because I slept so much. And I could not see myself going to a group of any kind. I couldn't do it. I wasn't that kind of alcoholic. So I found myself a counselor. I found a drug and alcohol counselor, and she was fabulous. And she challenged me. She challenged me to go to a group. And so I did. And I think it was the best thing I could have done for myself. Over the years, what I found for myself, the healing didn't go deep enough. It was still too surface level for me. Even with my counselor, we went pretty deep on some things, and yet something was missing. There was like this false bottom that I couldn't go any deeper. There was no access to deeper. And there was deeper healing to happen. I'm telling you, the surface healing is wonderful, and the surface healing is necessary. We have to start at the outside in. Even, if we want to get to the root of that onion, if we're not going to peel it, we still have to cut it, and we have to go through the surface. So that I'm not poo-pooing or bad mouthing that surface level healing, because it's really important. We have to go through that. And to get to the deep, deep, deep stuff, for me, it was energy healing, and it was spiritual healing. And that's when my life really changed, because I was able to understand my behaviors. I was able to understand my thought processes. And we are never done healing. Never done healing. 14 years sober. So there's 14 years of healing that I've done. There's the added healing that I've done energetically and spiritually ever since I became part of TCS, Everyday Psychics, and the Conscious Spirit. TCS, the Conscious Spirit, originally was the Community Spirit, and that is where I met Pam. The healing that she opened me up to is what changed my life. And it allowed me to start finding me. And however many years later, I'm not even sure how long Pam and I have been working together. But even through all of that healing, there's still more healing to do. And this past year has been huge for me. Really huge, because I have done so much healing. I could start seeing where my behaviors haven't changed. My behaviors were still in line with a lower vibration, and my vibration had changed. My vibration had risen, but my behaviors hadn't changed in certain areas. And my thought processes, I kept bringing back these old thought processes. And I really didn't understand how much of a choice I had in my behaviors, because it's so easy to fall into habits, into patterns, and to just, well, that's just how I am. Well, sorry, no, that's not how you are. It's a choice. Quick to anger. Even, and this past summer was a huge eye-opener for me. I was really quick to anger around certain things. And I realized it's because I had this expectation that I didn't realize I had the choice of changing. And so I changed it. Was it that simple? No, it wasn't that simple. It took a lot of soul searching. It took a lot of communication with spirit. It took more healing with Pam as the healer, being the conduit. But this one for me was more on that personal soul searching level. And It allowed me to see my choices. And I was able to choose change. And choosing change is hard because we have to take personal responsibility when we choose change. We have to take responsibility for how we were acting. And now I got to take responsibility for the new way that I'm acting. And I have to take responsibility for all the fucks in between when I don't know if I'm coming or going or was or is or what, because it can get confusing and it's hard. But humaning is hard, but we have to be human. We have to be human and we have to be present. And to be present in our lives, present in our day-to-day lives, it requires healing. It just does. And there's no substitute. There's no substitute for healing. Some people might disagree with me. Relapse, definite substitute for healing. Pink clouds, another definite substitute for healing. That pink cloud, we just did a podcast on this of where, you know, if you are if you're in recovery and you have gone through a program, I'm sure you know what that pink cloud is. That pink cloud is everything's wonderful. I'm not drunk and I feel so good and life is fabulous and everything is great and I am on top of the world. We're not supposed to stay there. We can't sustain that honestly and be present in our lives. What is another alternative to healing? Well, the other alternative to healing is being a dry drunk or a dry addict, where we just live in that vibration. We live with all of those behaviors. We live in our wounding, and we don't have the added benefit of our drug of choice. We don't have the benefit of numbing, because that's all we're doing in our addiction. And whether that addiction is alcohol or drugs, like I've talked before, gossip, shopping, sex, whatever it is, we're numbing, we're bypassing. We don't want to heal. We don't want to look at it. We are so afraid that the pain of healing is going to crumble us. Well, I am here to tell you, without healing, crumbling is exactly what we do. We fold in on ourselves, we collapse in on ourselves by not healing, by not allowing ourselves to step into who we are on that soul level, at that core level. So, healing and rebuilding is one of the most exciting journeys I have ever been on. That rebuilding piece of getting to choose, how do I really want to feel about this subject? And I don't care what the subject is. How do I want to feel about this person? Me, how do I want to feel? And through healing, we start rebuilding. Being able to make a choice of being present, making a choice of numbing through some other avenue, hopefully not your relapsed, your drug of choice. But sometimes it's okay to shut down. Sometimes we have to. But being able to make that conscious choice is something that healing gives us, to be able to say, oof, I am done. I am so tired. I am overwhelmed. I am overworked. I just need solace. And whatever that looks like for you, numbing out on gaming, numbing out on police shows. That's what I do. As long as what we're doing is healthy, or at least not detrimental. That would be a better way to say it, not detrimental. But we can choose to shut down periodically for short periods of time. And then we recoup, and then we come back to everyday living. I'm not really sure what the biggest fear around healing is. I want to say the biggest fear is that we have to relive whatever caused us the greatest pain, whether it was physical or emotional pain. And we really don't relive it. Sure, we can take ourselves back there and relive it. And most of us probably did when we were in our addiction. But in healing, you don't have to relive it. You just get to see it, and you can see it from a different perspective. And you do a little bit of soul searching, or a lot of bit of soul searching, and you sit with the feelings and you agree to let them move on. That is one of the best things about energy healing, is making that conscious decision to allow the energy to move and leave you. And sometimes you don't even remember what it was that you were so afraid of. I don't know. And I know I've been there. I have been through that fear of facing my wounding. Once you get on the other side of it, it's like, what was I so afraid of? And why did I wait so long? And I feel so good. So, I get to this mark. It's like 23 minutes. I'm like, really? I've been talking my head off, and it's only 23 minutes has gone by. And I say, okay, people are probably tired of hearing you speak, lady, so shut up now. And spirit is in my ear saying, but you have a message and you can keep talking. It's okay. So I'm going to keep talking. I'm going to keep talking about different ways to heal. Because there's lots of ways. On this channel, on the YouTube channel of the podcast, the Conscious Spirit Podcast, Fred's Meds. This is Pam channeling her main guide, Fred, with guided meditations. And doing these in person is how I met Pam. And they are designed to heal. So I guess I'm going to pose I don't know if this is a challenge or a request or just a suggestion. But if you are in recovery and whatever you're doing doesn't feel enough, like you're feeling like, what am I missing? I ask you to go and pull up an early Friends Med. If you've never done one, they're numbered 1 through 20, whatever she's done. And I say an early one because in the early ones, she walks you through a grounding meditation. And it's the perfect setup to then go on to do the meditation. But try it. And if you find that there's something that resonates with you, you feel like you want more, then reach out to us, check out the website, find out what our offerings are, schedule a healing, sign up for healing and rebuilding and recovery, find another healer. I mean, we're not the only ones in the world. Find another energy healer. But if you find a healer, if you're looking for a healer, please go with your gut. Trust your gut instincts. Make sure it's someone you feel safe with, someone you feel comfortable with, and hopefully it's someone who believes in grounding, because grounding is super important. So the meditations is a really wonderful introduction into how energy healing can work, spirit and energy, and how the two work together. One of the great benefits of deep healing and really finding who you are is building that relationship with yourself. And I'm doing that. I can't say I've done it because it's still a work in progress. But I have a relationship with myself now. I can communicate with myself when I do it all the time. I communicate all the time with myself now. Do I really want to do that? Do I want to do it because I want to do it? Do I want to do it because this person wants to do it? What's the expectation? But there's no pressure anymore. I can just be with myself. And what do I want? Okay. And if I don't know, it's okay too. So healing is really important. Healing is the best way to maneuver through life. It's the absolute best way to maneuver through recovery. It's about the only way to ensure, and we can't ensure, that we will never relapse, except by being diligent and being true to ourselves, true to our healing, and really nurturing ourselves from the inside out. Now, the healing happens from the outside in. And as we're healing, we begin nurturing. And that hole that's inside of us, because there's always a hole. You can't have a hole, or you can't have addiction without a hole in your being, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to fill that up with whatever our drug is. But I totally forgot what I was saying. What was I talking about? Healing from the outside in, nurturing from the inside out, as that hole starts to fill. And we learn who we are, and we become in relationship with ourselves, and our relationships with others change, and they morph, and they grow, and they become better. And sometimes they go away, but that's part of the deal too. Sometimes we have to let go of those connections that keep us in old behaviors, in old vibrations. Everything changes. And that's why we get clean and sober. That's why we heal, is to change and to grow and feel better. That's why we become addicts, is we want to feel better. And that's why we get out of the addiction, because we want to feel better. What's the constant? We feel like shit. That's the constant. We have a hole somewhere within us we are lacking. And we try all of this external stuff to fill us up, and it just doesn't work. What works? Healing. Spiritual healing, however that looks for you. And if you've listened to me before, if you've listened to Pam and I, the spiritual umbrella that we work under is massive. It's energy and it's love. I knew a gal, and she has since passed. And she had to have just dropped this in my lap. She called what I refer to as spirit Gus. And Gus stood for Greater Universal Spirit. Doesn't matter what you call it. It doesn't matter how you feel it. What matters is that you connect with it. And you connect with it in a way to allow healing to come, filling up to come, growth and expansion to come. And then life changes, and it's not all sunshine and roses and unicorns, because that's not life. But it's better because we feel better and we become more whole. And that's my message on recovery and healing today. I'm very grateful that you chose to listen to me today, and I hope something here resonated with you. You can find us at tcseverydaypsychics.com. Check out our services. If you want to reach out for just a healing, or reach out for healing and rebuilding and recovery, I would be honored to help walk you through that. Until next time, take care, everybody. Thank you.